I need to tell y'all the UFOs are not real. I can't believe the arguments that I've been in today. Turn this damn music off. It's enough of that. So, you really think that an alien life form of people that know how to travel throughout the universe... Hold on, let me switch my camera on, y'all. Sick of this. We need to be very serious. Where are you at? It's ridiculous. What's up, Dion? Dion, do you believe in UFOs? I can't believe that I had the discussion as long as I did about people believing in flying saucers and UFOs. That's not real. So they're having these congressional hearings, and y'all think, oh, they're having congressional hearings on UFOs. They must be real. No, it's a distraction. I can't believe... See, this is why Trump got elected. There's too many people believe in stuff that's not real. I feel like I'm wasting my time because the people that believe that alien life forms, first of all, why would they be interested in us? We're the only people that's interested in us. Like, no alien thinks we're fascinating. They probably think we're stupid and fat. Probably. Can you hear me? Because I don't know if you can hear me. You know what? I don't even care if you can hear me or not. Everybody can hear me. No, you can't hear me. I'm reading my own captions. All right. So if there's an intelligent life form, I'm not saying there aren't aliens. There's absolutely aliens. There's many of them. We just haven't met them yet. And I don't believe that Area 51 captured a spacecraft. I saw a documentary on this, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's true. But the documentary I saw basically said that those, what we thought were aliens, were altered human beings. That's what they are. Russia created all that stuff to start conspiracy theories in America because we're dumb enough to believe it. Like, they deformed people. It's really horrible, but it's the Soviet Union. They did all sorts of terrible things to people. So no, aliens are not real. And okay, so think about the people that get abducted, because you've heard about alien abductions. We've all heard about alien abductions, right? Those people are on drugs. The alien abduction people are on drugs. Because first, come on, they get probed in their buttholes. I'm banging on my table. So if an alien came here and they'd be interested in human beings, couldn't they just observe us? Or couldn't they send like surveillance stuff that we couldn't detect? Because they must know how crazy we are. I said this earlier today. If we found an alien, we would kill it. First thing an American would do is murder it. Because do we have these accounts of alien abductions in other countries? Or do they just come to the United States? To Kansas? They don't come anywhere else? They don't go to Chicago? They don't go to the South Side of Chicago? They don't go to the Bronx? Why is that? They don't go to LA? It's always in the middle of nowhere where people, let's be honest, smoke meth and they get high and they think that an alien abducted them. Like, those would be the least interesting people to abduct because they're rednecks. At least abduct somebody with teeth. How come they don't abduct like NASA scientists or engineers or really smart people? Those people never get abducted and get their buttholes probed. It's always somebody whose butthole no one would ever want to probe. And who decided that it's the butthole that... Oh, what's up, Carrie? Carrie, come and join. I wish I could bring you in. Carrie, where are you at? My esteemed producer on 1017, Carrie Noni, is chatting with... Watch out now. Carrie, Dion is in the chat too now, so please be careful because he likes your feet. Please be careful. Dion likes your toes. He probably sends you $500 for a foot pick. Does anybody want to pay me for a foot pick? $800 a toe for feet picks. So I'm actually like testing out all my new software and stuff. And I'm going to start doing these broadcasts regularly. I didn't plan on doing anything today because I already had a long week Me and Carrie been arguing all week. She's mad at me for all sorts of things. She thinks that I play hooky from work. So it's been a long week. But the conversation about UFOs just went off the rails today. So today on the air, we talked about UFOs and titties, which is not entirely unusual for me to talk about titties, but not, I can say titties here, right? It's not, do I have a censor here? Oh no, I'm the producer here. There's not breast milk. There's a baby formula shortage. And my question was, and it was a simple question, why aren't more women breastfeeding? And I got a lot of really good answers. Because as a man, I don't know why women don't breastfeed. So one day when I get a guest, I'd actually have a woman. See, I've got a chair here for a guest. One day I might have a woman in the studio and maybe I'll have her breastfeed live. So we can just get used to it. Because women need to be able to breastfeed because then you don't have to worry about formula shortages. But I come to find out some things. Not all women can breastfeed. They don't produce enough milk. Let me turn it back to me. Let me go right here. Okay. But look what else I can do. Watch, look at that. See Milwaukee in the background? You like that? I can move myself around and see. Go like that. So what if I got a woman to join me in the studio and we could have a conversation about breastfeeding because people need to get used to it. It shouldn't be naughty or inappropriate. And I think that's mostly men. There was a woman that texted in today. She said that when she's not pregnant or not, she must have several kids. But she called her titties fun bags. She said, oh, when I'm not lactating or breastfeeding, my titties are for fun. But then she said when she is lactating, because she breastfeeds her children, she said then the titties are off limits. Then they're not for fun. They're not fun titties. They're food titties. I thought that was really insightful. Also found something else out about breastfeeding. But please don't take this the wrong way. Well, you're going to take everything I say the wrong way anyway. I should be used to that by now. If you drink beer, the yeast in beer stimulates breast milk production. But I always thought, and it was confirmed, that if a woman drinks alcohol, some of y'all drink Hennessy. A lot of Hennessy. And if you drink alcohol and you breastfeed, you shouldn't. You should dump out that batch, I guess. If you drink some Hennessy or any liquor, you're not supposed to feed your baby the Hennessy titty milk. I feel like that's inappropriate to say. You're not supposed to feed your baby the breast milk that's readily available after a woman consumes alcohol. You're supposed to dump that out. They call it pump and dump. Pump and dump is also something that sexually inexperienced men do. But the lady said if you drink a beer, the yeast in the beer can actually stimulate breast milk production. But don't drink too much beer because then your baby will get drunk and then your baby will want a Newport after they breastfeed. Alicia said, what did Al say about aliens? I have not heard from Al much this week. Al did not call us today. And I figured it would have been a day we would have heard from Al on The Truth with Sherwin Hughes because we was talking about titties. If not titties, then aliens definitely would have gotten Al's attention. Well, here's the other thing. I don't know if Al is in this chat. Because I don't know what Al looks like. Carrie, are you still here? Carrie, do you know what Al looks like? So there's a caller on my radio program, not just mine. He calls all the shows, I'm pretty sure. He calls the morning show, MK in the Morning with Mel and DZ, who are both on assignments. And so Al's a very colorful character. He's very unfiltered. Sometimes he's like a little too unfiltered. He's a naughty person. He says very naughty things. Dion, shut up. Dion, shouldn't you be driving a truck somewhere? Shouldn't you be taking a load of concrete to like Texas or something? Why are you always on social media when you drive a truck? Unbelievable. But no, Al didn't call in today. But I would love to get his opinion on things. For those of you that don't know Al, how would y'all describe Al? Dion, you're clearly not unblocked. If there's a reason why you can't send me inbox messages, let's just consider that for the betterment of humanity. If you're unable to send me a message, dude, because you just... Let me see. Hold on a second. Is it okay if I run through some tests here with My new software. Oh, you guys want to see camera 2? Where's camera 2? Hang on a second. That's where I would have a breastfeeding lady because I'm going to do interviews with people. And that's where they would sit. So because we want to address the baby formula shortage and I want people to be much more used to women breastfeeding. Women should be able to breastfeed in public. And so we'll have a breastfeeding conversation. I just got to find a woman with a baby and a titty. I should stop saying titty. I feel like I'm still on broadcast radio where I would have been in the manager's office. I have had more trips to the manager's office at my day job radio station than probably Tory Lowe. Tory Lowe is actually on right now. Does anybody know what Tory talking about? Alicia says Sherwin would get shut down with Al on the show. There's been more requests to have Al join me on air than any other person that calls. But he would never do it. I don't think he wants to expose himself. Now, there was an Al sighting that he went to a public event, WNOV, my colleagues over at WNOV, they had something, or Keon, I think. You guys know Keon, he's a producer at WNOV, he's my producer for 6 years. They had something at WNOV where he was there. He didn't introduce himself. He didn't announce himself. But they heard his voice, and his voice is unmistakable. I'm not going to imitate his voice. But if you know, you know. Dion, shut up. First of all, Dion, where are you? Are you logged in on Facebook? Because right now this is broadcasting on my Facebook page. I think it's broadcasting on the forum2.com Facebook page, and I think it's also in the forum group. So I have a listing of all the people that are chatting, but I don't know where you're viewing this from. This is also live on YouTube and on Twitter, which nobody follows me on Twitter. So I'm testing out all the different platforms. I push one button and it streams to all these different platforms. So I have no idea where you guys are viewing this, but fair enough. I'm glad you can see. And the volume is okay. Everybody can hear me? You can hear me good? Dion, you're going to get blocked again. Unbelievable. Oh, there's Curbside Tech is just logged in on YouTube. Oh, cool. Good. So to get everybody caught up, I was a little disturbed. If you go to my Facebook page, my main Facebook page, I made a comment, a status that said UFOs aren't real. And people started getting all crazy. I think there's a racial component to it. Do more white people believe in unidentified flying objects? Anything you see in the sky and you don't know what it is, technically is a UFO because you don't know what the hell it is. It could be a drone. You know, when you look up in the sky on a clear night, if you're away from the city, you see what look like shooting stars. A lot of times you're looking at satellites that are reflecting the sun. And people think that those are shooting stars. They're not shooting stars. Or maybe it's a meteor or a meteorite, which is what do they call it when it hits the earth? It's a meteor when it hits the earth. It's a meteorite, I think, when it's just in the sky. So there's a congressional hearing, and I think it's a distraction. They had one, was it this week or last week? This week. Talking about a number of sightings or interactions or run-ins that American pilots and military pilots have had with UFOs. That's all BS. So someone had texted in earlier when I was on the air at 1017 and said, if there's a congressional hearing on it, then it must be true. No, that does not mean that it's true and factual. Think about the congressional hearings they had on election fraud and voter fraud, where all of that stuff was false. All of that stuff was made up. All that stuff was BS. But Congress, because they're made up of a bunch of really horrible people. When I say horrible people, they're not all created the same. The Republicans nowadays are dangerous, and I don't know what I can do to get people to understand that if they get power and control of this country during the midterm elections of this year, you might as well just sign up for slavery. You might as well just turn yourself in to the United States, the USSO, the United States Slavery Office. Because if you don't turn yourself in, they're going to come and get you. Like, y'all don't understand how bad this is. This country, to me, is unrecognizable. And I've worked in government my whole life. It's never been this bad. I've never seen anything like this. I couldn't have written a book or a story more dramatic than what is happening right now in American politics. And, of course, everything is about race. because the Trump people want to kill us. They're trying to start a race war. Then you got some black people saying, oh, yeah, I would love a race war. No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. We'd get slaughtered. We would get obliterated. First of all, we're wasting too much ammunition in the streets of Milwaukee. We need that ammo. Listen. I know it's some of y'all cousins that's out here in these streets shooting. I know it is. It's like everybody has experienced a level of violence. Everybody's car's been broken into, been stolen. A real good friend of mine, his wife's car just got stolen. She went in to get some damn coffee on the east side. Coffee. And she came at 10 o'clock in the morning. She went to get some coffee. Car was broken into, stole her laptop, stole her wallet, credit cards, everything. She just went in to get some damn coffee, paid cash for the coffee, left everything in the car. In like less than 5 minutes, they ransacked the car. Everybody has been a victim of crime in this city, one form or another, some much more severe than others. But nobody knows who's doing it. Y'all know these people. Now, if you know them, and it's hard for me to tell somebody to not shoot somebody they want to shoot. Because if I tell a shooter to not shoot, oh, they'll shoot me, and then they'll shoot the person they want to shoot in the first place. So everybody's been a victim of crime, but nobody knows who's doing it. I think you guys are covering up for these people. Tell them they need to save their ammunition. Now, I'm not a proponent of a race war, but a lot of black people are getting very fed up. We've been very tolerant with white people. And I say that very sincerely. Because they don't say anything when bad stuff happens to us. They don't say anything. Like, what is the harm in saying, sorry, or just acknowledging that y'all do bad stuff to us? When Darrell Brooks, Dion, don't you say nothing about this. When Darrell Brooks drove his car through that parade in Waukesha, I felt horrible. I apologized for him. Now, some of that was self-serving, because I've had racial run-ins in Waukesha before, and I knew after that incident. So first of all, I thought that somebody would automatically connect it to a black nationalist trying to kill a bunch of white people. I'm not condoning violence in any kind, but if you're going to kill a bunch of white people, like, Waukesha is a good place to start. But I'm not telling you to do that. I'm just saying, thinking logically, if you're looking at a map and you want to inflict some damage, I mean, that would be a target. Like, Waukesha would be starred on the map. But it wasn't a racially motivated killing. It was a bunch of circumstances. He was running from the police, and he went through a parade route. He busted through some barricades. I don't think he did it intentionally. I mean, he's going to go to jail for 47,000 years. But I knew at least enough, I'm human enough to recognize that was a horrible tragedy, and it was Christmas time. Right? And so I apologized, and I said that there were my condolences and all that other stuff. But when something happens to black people that we know is 100% racially motivated, the Buffalo killer, he had the N-word written on his gun and the names of the people that were killed in Waukesha. So he's trying to start a race war. There was the El Paso shooting where the guy shot a bunch of Latino people at a Walmart. What's another one? There was another racially motivated shooting. And when they leave these manifestos, like these are these long diaries, almost these novels that they write, in which they leave behind, the Christ Church, this wasn't in America, but the New Zealand shooting when they went and they shot up a mosque. And the Jews, they're not immune. Jews think they're white. You're not white. In Charlottesville, when they were marching, the white boys wearing the khaki pants, the too tight khakis. And they were wearing a shirt like this one. And they were saying Jews will not replace us. Like, Jews got it twisted. And here's the thing. I got zero animosity toward the Semites. Some of my most significant mentors and friends are of the Jewish faith and ethnicity. But the Jews that I know that practice know that they're not white. They're Middle Eastern. It's where their heritage is from. They hail from Israel. Israel doesn't have white people in it. Israel has Israelis. And so when they do terrible things to us, white people don't say anything. Not a word, no apologies. So they're egging us on because in all these manifestos they leave, they say, oh, well, we're trying to start a race war. Like, they're pushing and pushing and pushing. That's what they want, because they know that they would beat us. And some of you would disagree with that, that we would not lose a race war. The strategy that we would need to survive is one that I don't even know we as black people have considered. We don't produce anything. You know, in times of war, production is very important because all the things that we need to survive, our food, our water, our electricity, our money in our bank accounts, in a race war, all of that would get cut off. All of it would. There's this thing called economic sanctions. We hear it all the time. It's something that we do to, certain leaders that we don't agree with. And if we're in war, a cold war with someone, we use these sanctions against Russian oligarchs and we use sanctions against Russia. You know what that means? Sanctions is we literally are going to go in your bank account and take all your money. You can't withdraw another penny. So if we were in a race war, a lot of the things that we as black people depend on, gone. They would cut off our cell service. They would make it impossible for us to communicate. Not to mention, if we do have arms, and there's a lot of small arms in the black community. I'll be the first one to say we got a lot of guns. But eventually, you're going to need more guns and you're going to need more ammunition. No one's going to sell black people ammunition if we're in the middle of a race war. And it won't be what you think. It won't just be a bunch of people in the streets fighting. It'll be, and I kind of went over this earlier this week, which was a no-no because I don't want people to think I'm promoting a race war. Hey, Pam. Glad to see you too. It would be a bunch of small battles in specific cities. Like, here's an example. So the Buffalo murderer killed black people. He wasn't even from Buffalo. He drove 200 miles away. He was from some other no-name town in New York. He drove to Buffalo, did his research, found out this is a black neighborhood. This is where a lot of black people live. One of his considerations, he was going to shoot up a black school because he communicated this, that black children are dumb. So he was going to shoot up a bunch of school children. I think that would have got us more upset had he went and killed a bunch of black kids. But he's in Buffalo. He made his headlines and did his murder in Buffalo for something that happened in Waukesha, a crime, a murder, vehicular homicide from a man from Milwaukee. So the race war will be in scattered U.S. cities days and weeks apart. And what will happen is the conflicts will become more frequent. And until we catch on, it'll be white gunmen committing mass murder events in black neighborhoods and black communities. Grocery stores, our schools, our churches. Dylan Roof, what did he do? He went to a black church. And we're so godly and wonderful of people. They prayed with that boy for 45 minutes. Like, imagine how depraved you have to be. And this is what a couple of things does to white men when they get radicalized. Because they get radicalized just like ISIS and just like Al-Qaeda. But white boys that don't have their fathers, they act up too. We always look at the black man and the black boy and look at how his behavior is off kilter because he don't have his father. White boys without daddies, they go crazy too. Kyle Rittenhouse didn't have no daddy. Y'all saw his dope addicted mother that drove him to Kenosha. She was a single mother. And he got radicalized. But if we were to have a race war, there is a way in which, I hate to say it, black people we could survive. We could. It would take a lot of strategy. First of all, we have to combine our assets. All historically black colleges and universities immediately, if we have agreed as a black people in America, the African diaspora, that we're going to be in a race war because we're tired of white people, because they would be on the offensive repeatedly. There'd be shootings all over the place. They'd start in small towns where there's small defenseless black population. They would just shoot us and kill us there. They'd snipe us. They'd do all sorts of things. And then we finally say, okay, as hard as this is to admit, it's a race war. Joe Biden, first thing he would do, he would lock down Washington, D.C. The National Guard would be protecting the nation's capital. So I had this conversation earlier this morning. The black people in D.C., and that's a majority black city, they would all have to flee. They'd have to go to Virginia or to Baltimore, or if they could, get to Atlanta, because the capital of black America during a race war would be Atlanta, Georgia, because we as black people would hold that city. White folks would not get military control of Atlanta. DC would be difficult because we do have the population numbers there, but because Washington, DC is the seat of the federal government, that's where you would have U.S. military occupation. So black folks would have to flee DC to fight in other cities. I think we could hold Baltimore, and Baltimore would be very strategically important because it's a port city. Because our ability to get resources in America would be cut off. If you know this is where the black community is, you know this is where they're planning their military strategy and doing their military drills to defend themselves in the race war, all the supplies that we would need would all be cut off. So no more insulin, no more medicine, none of that stuff, no more medical supplies, all that stuff would get cut off. So we would need to consolidate our resources. Every historically black college and university would have to kick out all the white students. Sorry, you got to go. We're in a war. Well, there's not many white students. The white professors and staff, like they all would have to go because the historically black colleges and universities would have to be our home base for not just research, but where we would develop our weapons. We would use the research institutions that we have that are historically black to be the brain trust during our war. Now, we're going to need a general. We're going to need a leader during this war. Because if we were all fragmented in a race war, they would destroy us on that principle alone. I have an idea for who the leader would be, but let me continue to how we would potentially hold our own. In the event that we have a race war in this country, which I'm not calling for because I don't want it. It would ruin Summerfest, you know? I don't want to have a race war. It would be inconvenient. It would mean that the United States of America has fallen into complete disintegration. The democracy is over. Partially what the Republicans are doing at every government level by still harping on the fact that they want Donald Trump to be president and Joe Biden stole the election. This is actually what they are aiming for. So our democracy is already fledgling. But if we actually had a race war, that means the democracy is finished. Okay, the United States we're essentially no more. We're not the country that we used to be. Like when the Civil War took place. The country was disintegrated. There was a dividing political issue where everybody stopped and they had to pick a side. Couldn't be neutral. You're on one side or the other. So if we had a disintegrated United States, think about all of the other countries that have been hoping and waiting and praying for us to be disintegrated. Foreign nations, Venezuela, China, Russia, even to a lesser extent, Cuba. In a race war, those nations would be black people's allies because they already want to see the destruction of America. And arming us like we, the United States, are arming Ukraine against Russia, those foreign countries that we're supposed to hate and not get along with, that would be our supply of food, medicine, weaponry. They would be supplying us with missiles and missile defenses, and also the AK-47. It is the most widely used and produced firearm in the whole of human history. So we would have the AKs shipped here, right? Well, how would they get to us? I'm glad you asked that question, even though you didn't. That's why we would have to control port cities. We would have to control Baltimore. So all of the people, the black people who want to participate in the war, would go to Baltimore. Baltimore right there it's on the Chesapeake Bay. Is that what that is right there, Baltimore is? We then would receive shipments from our foreign allies at that port city. The other port city that African Americans would control in a race war. We wouldn't control all of the cities, but we would need to be able to control the important ones. You got to keep this in mind. You got a dozen or so U.S. cities where black people are the majority. Atlanta is just one of them. New York is another. New York will be a special case. But in the cities in which African Americans are the overwhelming majority, a lot of times the white people would be so outnumbered in those majority black cities, they would just flee. Canada would be a safe haven. Just like people left Ukraine when the Russian war started because they didn't want to fight. They wanted to have nothing to do with the war. They fled. Ukraine has lost like 10 million people. They fled. A lot of Americans would simply flee. They wouldn't want to fight. They got families. They got kids. They want to have nothing to do with it. So a lot of people would flee to Canada. And so a lot of white folks that are overwhelmingly outnumbered in some majority black cities, Chicago's another. Not sure what the demographics of Detroit are, but Detroit would also be another city that African Americans could hold. So in a race war in this country, there will be geographic territory that will be controlled by African Americans, okay? Detroit is extremely important because a lot of our resources that would be cut off from and in the United States during the race war would have to be funneled through Canada. Canada would not be an ally. Canada, if anything, might get dragged into the war, but on the white side. But states that we have that border Canada is where we could get help, supplies, and resources from foreign countries that will help us disintegrate the United States. Detroit is important. Detroit used to be a majority black city, but I'm not sure what gentrification did to Detroit. Detroit's extremely important because on the other side of Detroit, you've got Windsor, Canada, literally right across that little bay, that little waterway right there. You've got Windsor, Canada. So a lot of you got to think like food, you got to think about medicine, ammunition, small arms, large arms that would have to get funneled into the United States so black people during the race war would have an ability to defend ourselves. Now keep in mind, we as black people don't produce any of that. We don't have any firearms plants. We don't make guns. We got to get them from other countries that hate the United States as much as some black people do. They would be our allies. Detroit is important because it borders Canada. Canada would be a gateway to get weapons into this country. You get the weapons into Canada. You ship them to Windsor. You cross over because right across the border from Windsor, Canada is Detroit. Detroit would be fortified. Detroit would be a city we would hold. Meaning that if you're a black person that lives anywhere in Michigan or anywhere else in the Midwest, if you got to Detroit, you would be protected and you would be safe because we would be able to hold Detroit. But here's another important part about why Detroit is so strategic. If you continue west in Michigan, so out of Detroit and you go west, eventually when you go west in the state of Michigan, lower Michigan, you'll hit Lake Michigan. That's very important because then we could ferry food, medicine, small arms, and ammunition across Lake Michigan, where? Into Wisconsin and into Milwaukee. Now, whether we as black people in Milwaukee could hold Milwaukee, that's a tough one. Potentially we could, but Chicago, again, also on Lake Michigan, which would be very, very important because if we're getting arms, weapons, and supplies from Canada, crossing into Michigan via Detroit, and then going across the state of Michigan and using Lake Michigan as a ferryway to get more supplies into Chicago, because Chicago we would hold. Oh, yeah, the white folks would leave Chicago. They're already leaving Chicago. Chicago would be a black city that we would hold in the race war. So Milwaukee, because we are smaller population-wise and we are just so incredibly surrounded by white communities, we might be better off fleeing Milwaukee and seeking refuge and safe haven in Chicago and helping Chicago hold. But the two most important cities that African Americans would need to hold in a race war. 2. Miami, Florida. That is really where the most bloody battles would likely be. It would be in Florida. So Miami is a majority black and or brown city. We got to figure out where our Latino brothers and sisters are because some of them would join with the white people. I don't know if they would be with the Cubans, because there's Cubans that are conservative. Who knows what they would do? But Cuba would be an ally because Cuba's only 90 miles away from Key West. If we held Miami and then sent a contingent of military personnel to take the Keys, then we could have weaponry because Cuba is not exactly an ally of the United States. In fact, Barack Obama tried to normalize relations with Cuba and then Donald Trump literally undid everything. Cuba has always had it out for the United States. But if we could form an allyship with Cuba, we could get, again, medicine, probably more medicine than anything else from Cuba, but also some weaponry to the island of Cuba, and then that 90-mile trek to the Keys, and then from the Keys, we could funnel some of those weapons into the stronghold of Miami. But the most important port city would be New Orleans, because we would control New Orleans in a race war. We could potentially have Baltimore, Miami, and the Keys, but New Orleans, because it's a port city as well. Another place where weapons will come from, Mexico, Central America, and South America. So we got that land bridge, don't we, between South America here and the United States. And the Gulf of Mexico could be a seaport to get weapons, medicine, all the supplies that we would need, that we'd be cut off from in the United States through the Gulf of Mexico. Here's another reason why New Orleans would be very important for African Americans to hold if we were in a race war. I mean, we'd have to control the entire city. There are offshore oil drilling, or the rigs in the Gulf of Mexico. We would need petroleum, because in a race war, they would cut off all of our gas and petroleum supplies, so we would be immobile. But if we controlled New Orleans, which is a port city, and you've got oil rigs right off the coast of New Orleans, that could be our fuel supply for our tanks, our armored vehicles, etc. California would be a problem. We would likely control Oakland, California, and Northern Cal. We definitely would control that. Los Angeles would be a problem. Los Angeles could be like the third wave of the race war, where Latinos, they would want to control Los Angeles, and African Americans would not have a lot of choice. They also would probably control San Diego. As long as the Latinos held it and they didn't surrender it to the whites, because that's why we celebrate Cinco de Mayo. That is Mexicans beating the French. So the Mexicans already know how to beat white people. And it's crazy because white people celebrate Cinco de Mayo, and it's a holiday where white people got slaughtered by Mexican farmers. It's crazy. Eileen says, I really, really want and need to see beyond a race war and create a true integrated parallel which will prevail. There are far more people who are peace-loving and embrace one another. We just don't see it a lot in Milwaukee. You know what? I don't know. I used to think that, Eileen. But peace-loving white people are silent. They're silent. They don't say anything. They don't say very much. Maybe in isolation they do. But I refuse to believe that many people are peace-loving when you have black people that are slaughtered at a grocery store and the country fell silent. And I say the white people are silent because did they change their profile pictures to "We Stand with Buffalo"? Has anybody seen anything, any mass movement on social media? Oh, "We stand with Buffalo"? Hell no. Hell no. No. Gerard Garner says, what do you think no Mexicans would do? If we could get them to ally with us, that would give us a lot of bodies on the front line. We'd have to make major, major concessions with not just Mexicans, but Central Americans, because they might want their own. So ultimately what would happen is this. We would control the big cities, right? We would control the resources of those big cities. We then would have foreign allies, China, Russia, Cuba, Venezuela. But then in all this disintegration of the United States, like ISIS and Al-Qaeda, they would try to influence the Muslims here in this country. So that'd be a whole problem. But ultimately what would happen is this. The country would be divided up just like it was during the colonial period. So the French had the Louisiana Territory, which basically stretched from Montana to the Gulf of Mexico, but they controlled that. The Spanish controlled portions of the South, like Florida, and they also controlled the West. White people in a civil war, if it ever ended or came to some kind of stalemate, truce, or the war was just of attrition, would be relegated to the Mountain Time Zone. Black people would control Baltimore, Miami, New Orleans, Chicago, Detroit. Texas would be another major, major frontier. Between Texas and Florida, Texas, Florida, and California would be the bloodiest battles in a race war in this country. No question about that. But we would have to divide the country. The Mexicans, the Central Americans, and even the South Americans might want the West Coast to themselves, and it would be theirs. They would have California. We would just lose California. And the African Americans in California, once it becomes occupied territory by Central Americans and Mexicans, the black people just have to leave. And the Mexicans, who we would make concessions with to give them California, to give them New Mexico. I mean, hell, they should have New Mexico anyway. It's called New Mexico. They live in the old Mexico now. They would just take New Mexico. So they would control that territory. But white people would be funneled into the Mountain Time Zone. I say Mountain Time Zone, Utah, I guess some of the Midwest too, North Dakota, South Dakota. We would give them 2/3 of Minnesota, Minneapolis would be the only integrated city where black people and white people would be fighting together against white people. Because I saw what Minneapolis did during the George Floyd protest. Minneapolis got more white soldiers than Milwaukee has black ones. White people will be relegated to Idaho, Utah, Kansas, Oklahoma, and there's so much space. Montana, both Dakotas, Washington, and Oregon. That is where the white European populations would live. Missouri would be a problem. St. Louis would be worth fighting for, but that would be tough to hang on to because any border state, any southern border state would be, those white people would be really, really angry. And I fight till the death to keep Mother Missouri in white hands. But ultimately, that's what would happen. White people would occupy the western interior of the United States. Latinos and Hispanics would have their own land, their own territory in the West, which used to be theirs any damn way. New York would just fall. New York wouldn't exist as we know it anymore. Deion said he's going to Texas next week. Good luck. I think that's how it would shape out. And you would have different racial groups in this country, and we would be truly, truly segregated. And so for the African Americans who have been saying quite frequently as of late, we're better off segregated, the results of a race war, because people would get tired of the death and the destruction. And we'd have a treaty, and we would agree, here's what our territory is going to be, here's what your territory is going to be, and this is what it's going to be. We would literally have to rename the nation because we would have 3 separate countries. We would have the far west coast, which would be occupied by Hispanics. You would have just east of that what I'm calling flyover interior, which would be the new majority white colony. But then in big cities, you would have the black occupation, with Atlanta being the new capital of the black united post-war era. So in all of this, and black colleges and universities, of course, would be credited with where the research and where the technology came from in order to win the war. Speaking of technology, because they would cut off all of our systems of communication that we have right now, like all that stuff would be gone. All the cell towers would be gone. Like all that stuff would be eliminated. We would need a foreign entity to launch satellites, so we would have a way of communicating with one another in an encrypted way. So we would be heavily reliant on a lot of countries that are supposed to be the enemy of the United States, but would be allies with African Americans in a race war, because those countries also hate the United States and they will aid and abet any group of people that's fighting to disintegrate the United States. It's a real dystopian kind of vision. I mean, it's basically all fiction. If anything, I'm sharing with you a screenplay that I would write. Deion said I have captions on. I have no idea how to turn them off, Deion. Are the captions accurate? Are they accurately capturing my words, my vocabularies? I don't know how to turn that off. Let me see. Manage post, save video, copy link. So here's who our general would be. And y'all aren't going to like this. You're not going to like who our general is going to be. Because we would need a leader. We would need a leader who is experienced, who is versed in military strategy, that has experience in global warfare. Now, also keep in mind, in my conversation, I didn't talk about nuclear weapons, which that'd be a separate conversation. That'd be a little different. But here's who the leader of the African American resistance would be. You ready for this? You're not going to like it. You're going to hate it. Think about this. Somebody really intelligent, really, really smart, that knows these systems, that knows warfare, that knows military strategy, that is a proven leader, that is an executive, that can dispatch troops and make sure the resources are getting where they need to get to. They have experience in logistics. They know this country better than most, because we would need an actual general. Just like, Zelensky is like the leader he's a president of Ukraine. He's like the moral leader. He's there with the people. Like Zelensky didn't even leave. He stayed there. Dion, you're right. It would be Barack Obama. It would 100% would be Barack Obama. 100%. Barack Obama was a U.S. president for 8 years. He knows everything about the military. Barack Obama came into office when there were 2 wars. Logistically, he and his team, and Barack Obama would have to reassemble a lot of his team, but he would be the general. And if y'all don't think that Barack Obama isn't a black nationalist deep down inside, then you really don't know black people. He played a part. He played a role in order to appease the American people enough to be able to lead us out of a very dark period in America. But I firmly believe that he knows all this. There probably were war game strategies that I'm sure different presidential administrations went through. What if we actually do have a race war because white nationalists and white supremacists continue and continue to provoke us and we don't respond back with violence? How long does that actually last? Like, how long can you kill a people? Politically, academically, financially? Like, how long can you suffocate somebody before people say, you know what? Enough is enough. Now, again, I don't want any of this to happen. I'm just going through a bunch of very unlikely scenarios. And we, of course, hope that none of this takes place. But if it did, this would just be a glimpse into how it would work. That's that. Literally had no idea that I was going to be talking about this. This just started as a casual conversation. I'm over here hitting my microphone. I don't know how to turn my captions off. Oh, right here. Got it. If anything, this is a test run of live streams that I'm going to do. So I'm broadcasting this on all of my available platforms. I very well might delete this video because somebody might forward it to the damn FBI. And I had somebody tag a post I made. I made a sarcastic post yesterday, which I shouldn't have done. And somebody tagged the FBI in it. Like, y'all chill. Seriously. So it was some conservative. I was talking about the Republicans that voted against funding for baby formula. Like, how do you vote against that? Do you guys understand what we're dealing with? Do you understand 192 Republicans voted against emergency funding for goddamn baby formula? I want you to wrap your heads around that. And if you're a Republican and voting for Republicans, because nobody can give an answer as to why they did 192, not like a couple of nutcase Republicans. Well, they all have to be nutcases nowadays. 192 people. I don't know how many Republicans they have in the Senate. Like 224, I think. 12, some weren't voting, some were absent, some abstained. But like 90% of the Republicans in the House of Representatives, it's a pro-life party. So pro-life, they want to outlaw abortion, and they're going to outlaw abortion. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Probably June. Well, not when I say not outlawed. Women won't be protected by the federal government when they want to have particular healthcare needs addressed, right? So states are going to pass very restrictive laws. So fellas, I'm going to say this to you. Get a vasectomy if you don't want no kids. Because if you want kids, then they can just undo the vasectomy. I hear it's a simple procedure. I actually thought about getting one. They go in, they do a snippety snip snip. Because we got to take some responsibility too. When women get pregnant, we did it. You know, we planted the seeds. So we need to take a little more responsibility. But does it make any sense to anybody? And nobody can give me an explanation how a pro-life party voted against funding for baby formula. So there was some news story yesterday, and like an idiot, I posted. You're never supposed to comment on that kind of stuff, but I couldn't help it. I was like, oh, the pro-life party is voting against baby formula. All the damn conservatives, you're stupid. You don't even know what you're talking about. You don't understand. It's Joe Biden's fault. They're going on and on and on. And I got real frustrated. I got very frustrated. And I said, I voted twice. I register illegal Mexicans to vote. I cheat and I help Joe Biden steal the election. I just went on and on. And of course, I'm being tongue in cheek, right? Somebody tagged the FBI in that mess. So that's why I probably should delete this live stream. Well, it appears that everything worked. You guys can hear me, right? Sound is okay. I turned the captions off. which I didn't know I had on. It looks like the chat is working. I'm seeing everybody's chat. That's good. You guys can hear the music, correct? Good. So I actually will put together a real intro. I like that. That's slick, ain't it? I like that. Thank you guys so much for listening to me rant and rave on my streaming platform. Well, that song just went off. Let me see if I got another song. I do got another. This is good. I'm going to do these regularly. I just don't know when I'm going to start, because once I turn that down. Once I start, I want to be consistent. If you guys got topics and ideas, you know what? I should invite somebody. Because look, let me show you something. Let me show you. I got a guest chair. See that? I got a guest camera. I got a Sherwin camera. Guest camera. Dion, not you. I'm not going to have you participate. But it's been a pleasure, guys. Make sure you check out The Truth with Sherwin Hughes, the uncensored version, Monday through Friday from 1 p.m. No, that's not what my damn show is. It goes off at 1 o'clock. 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday on 101.7 The Truth. You can download the Truth app. I'm over here doing a damn commercial for my day job. The Truth app allows you to stream all the podcasts that Carrie and I do Monday through Friday from 10 until 1. But remember, the conversations there got to be censored. Like here, I can say fuck. I felt good to say fuck in front of a microphone. Do you cuss a little? What's your favorite word? Fuck. Thank you, guys. I'm going to stop streaming now. Have a good weekend. I don't know. I might wake up tomorrow morning, come at y'all again, since I know how to do it now. Until then, either tomorrow or the next time I stream, be careful out here in these streets, please.